Okay. Good morning, everybody. State Representative Tracy Ehlert here at the Iowa House. I have my Clerk Truley with me again this week, and we have a special guest. We have EJ Wallace from Save the Children Action Network. EJ, can you give us an introduction and tell us a little bit about your role?
Sure. So Save the Children Action Network was created in 2014. Iowa was one of the first states that we went in. I was one of the first hires as a political advocacy arm of the over 100-year-old NGO Save the Children. We wanted to be the political voice for kids. And we work to ensure that issues critical to children's lives and futures are given top priority by our elected leaders like yourself. And we want to build bipartisan support to make sure that every child has a strong start in life, both at the legislature, building bipartisan support, but also in the community.
Thank you. And because I have actually personally had the opportunity to get to know EJ over the years, as I volunteered for Save the Children Action Network when he first came to Iowa, and him and Save the Children Action Network are actually part of the reason that I had the confidence to run for office. Our trip to DC really helped with that, but I'll let Truley kind of take the lead and ask questions that she has, and then I'll jump in as needed.
Yeah, so what would you say is the most impactful bill that's gone through or been, I mean, even if it didn't go through, what's the most impactful bill that has happened this session?
Well, I think one of the things that we've been trying to do at Save the Children Action Network in coalition with our partners is really try to elevate the importance of early childhood education since we came to Iowa. Iowa has the statewide voluntary preschool program, but nearly 40% of Iowa's 3 and 4-year-olds are not enrolled in a preschool program. So that's been something that we've been really advocating for. Along the journey is we've really tried to incorporate conversations around investing in childcare. So we're very excited to see a number of childcare bills. I think it was 5 within the first few days of session that were passed through the House and are currently sort of moving themselves through the Iowa legislative process. Save the Children Action Network is part of the Iowa Child Care Coalition, and we are monitoring a number of bills. There's a couple that are really of note that are kind of in committee right now in the Senate, and that is House File 301 and House File 302. Both of those bills invest in, 1, the child care workforce, and 2, really help reduce what is called the child care cliff effect. The workforce investment bill helps provide a statewide matching grant program for the wages program, and I'm sure that Tracy can talk a little bit more about that. Actually, having worked with the Iowa Association for the Education of Young Children, we were excited to see that pass through committee yesterday. Voted unanimous support in the Human Resources Committee. But one bill that we are really eager to see move forward that hasn't made its way through and needs to within the next couple of weeks is House File 302. And again, that works with that exit eligibility and entrance eligibility, where working parents sometimes lose all their benefits just by taking a 15-cent increase in their pay. So we really want to see that move forward this session. But again, I think holistically, I think we've been really excited to hear the governor talk about childcare. Really excited to see this be the bipartisan movement that it really should have been since the beginning. And we're really looking forward to making lives a little bit better for children and childcare providers.
Awesome. So during a normal session, what does a day at the Capitol look like for you?
So most of my work is in the community. I'm actually not at the Capitol physically, especially during the pandemic. My organization and agency has really encouraged all of our advocates and staff to be doing remote work. I have to get special permission to even go to my storage facility. But what most of my work is I'm the only full-time permanent staff in the state. All of our advocacy is through advocates, volunteers, and volunteer leaders that are communicating with lawmakers like Tracy, really encourage them to pass bills like House File 301 and House File 302, that invest in childcare. But that they also are in advocating and learning about these issues, attending coalition meetings, talking to lawmakers in district. But where the legislature and our grassroots advocates meet is during things like committee meetings. So during like committee and subcommittee hearings where they talk about some of these important policies, we encourage advocates and we prep them to share their story. One of the things that I talk a lot about as someone who has the privilege of mobilizing advocates is that we can go all day about all the statistics about why it's important to invest in kids. But at the end of the day, our personal stories and our personal experiences are the things that give us power. And through every area of Save the Children Action Network's work, we encourage and help our advocates recognize their own power to share their stories to lawmakers.
So if someone wants to become an advocate, how do they go about that? What would you suggest that they do?
Well, I mean, self-servingly, they can look up SaveTheChildrenActionNetwork.org and look me up, EJ Wallace, Wallace at SaveChildren.org. But one of the things you can do if you don't want to advocate for a particular issue or within a particular organization is really, watch some of these videos that lawmakers like Representative Ehlert, Senator Truley have been putting out there, as well as a number of other lawmakers about how do you follow a bill. I think it's a trap to think that there's just too much and it's just too big. Pick an issue that you care about, figure out what it is that you personally connect to that issue. How do you personally connect to that issue? See if there is a bill that is related to that issue by searching with the keyword search on the Iowa legislative website, and then find out who the lawmakers are that are the key sponsors and co-sponsors of those bills. Build relationships with those lawmakers. They're people too. And at the end of the day, we all have to remember that these lawmakers work for us. They're great people. Some of them have been in there for a long time, but I think that we just have to remember that we're their boss, and how are they supposed to know what to do if we don't tell them?
Definitely, yeah. Tracy, do you have any questions?
So EJ, tell us about what you do when legislative session is not happening, because you guys, I know, do work beyond just the state level. So I don't want people to think, you join an advocacy group and you only put work in, the 4 months that we're in session. There's still a lot that goes into it the remainder of the year. So if you can talk a little bit about that.
Right. Our president and CEO, Mark Schreiber, says it best in that democracy is a contact sport. It's something that you have to get involved in it within all seasons, just in the on season and in the off season. It's important for us to continue the relationship building that I talked about when legislative session isn't going. Especially in the fall, those are key moments where lawmakers are crafting bills, kind of making a plan. I guess this is a secret to share, but a lot of the bills that have been dropped at the beginning of session have worked. Lawmakers have been working on those things with coalition members in the community for months. So it's our right and our responsibility to communicate with lawmakers out of session. I think that the other thing that is important, and that Save the Children Action Network does, is that we work not only in the state level, but also work in the federal level. So we have a year-long cycle of bills and procedures and appropriations and things like that directly impact Iowa life and laws. Federal money that we just recently got through the CARES Act and the recent stimulus bill. Congress is going to be working on how to appropriate that money, and lawmakers are going to be figuring out within this year, even after session, how to spend those funds to most accurately and adequately help the most people that have been impacted by this terrible pandemic. So, continue to share your stories that way. to our federal lawmakers is incredibly important, and you can look up those contact pieces of information, and I'm sure that Representative Ehlert will include that in the follow-up to this. Another thing to do is to get out in the community and share why these issues are so incredibly important. Childcare happens all year. People have to work all year. So getting out in the community and talking about what it would mean if we didn't have a 350,000 slot childcare shortage in our state, if we weren't losing nearly 40% of our childcare providers within the 5 years leading up to the pandemic, what would our community look like if everybody knew where the child was going to go and they were confident in the system? So those are some of the things that people can do, is they can educate the community on the issues that matter to them. They can invite their friends to get involved, everything from sharing a Facebook post or communicating to lawmakers. Follow laws and legislation that's coming out of Congress and talk to your federal lawmakers, and then build those long-standing relationships with our local Iowa electeds, so that we can see strong policy that help kids in 2022 and beyond.
Thank you so much, EJ. Anything else you want to add that we didn't ask you about?
No, I just, I think my parting message to Iowans is that you can do this. You can be an advocate for kids. They can't vote, you can, and therefore we have a responsibility to use our voice for children. It's not as hard as you think. Just trying to get your issue in front of lawmakers will make a huge impact. And practice at sharing your story. It is the #1 most powerful thing that you have that nobody can take away from you. What are they going to say, that you aren't 65 and you have a 40-year experience in the childcare industry? They're not going to be able to say that. So ensure that you're sharing your story and know that it's making a difference.
And EJ is really great at helping you narrow down your elevator speeches too. So if you ever see one of his trainings, I recommend signing up for it. That was probably one of my least favorite things to do, but he's really helpful at that.
And one thing I did forget to mention is, the unfortunate thing is we're always coming up on election cycles. I mean, it feels like we just survived one. But know that lawmakers, when we do have an important Senate race coming up in 2022, get out on the campaign trail, whether it's virtually or in person. There's all kinds of ways to talk to candidates so that they can prove to you that they know about the issues that you care about, and that they will make a plan to make your community a little bit better. It's one of the most effective times to really hold lawmakers accountable. So I would say one thing that I did neglect to mention is take notes during session. Keep a running list of the rights and the wrongs of different lawmakers and hold them accountable when they run for re-election. Ask them why they voted against a particular bill or why they voted for a particular issue, and how are they going to make it better or fix an issue. Sorry to interrupt you there, Tracy.
Oh, you're fine. Thank you again for joining us today, EJ. Truly, thanks for joining again. I look forward to continuing these conversations, and we will see everybody again next week. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Bye.